It has a decidedly consumerist point of view, and it talked a lot about the different ways companies embed their brands in consumer minds. To accompany this launch, he had a really interesting editorial about loving your iPhone and how it was the emotions detected resembled romantic love. This produced a really strange backlash from the neuroscience community, with Mind Hacks posted a rather odd metaphor of the New York Times weeing itself in public. Wired's bullshit detector went apeshit. Another blog said basically the op-ed in the New York Times plus fMRI adds up to complete crap. So the reception that neuromarketing is getting these days is a little bit skeptical, to say the least. I think this is why this conference, and actually what's happening here at the University of Akron, is so important, because there is this constant controversy and back and forth between purist academics and people who are providing services, and what's needed is a solid academic and research foundation for the technology that will set aside hopefully some of this ongoing sniping. Why we need techniques like the ones you've heard about this morning already, and some of the other neuromarketing techniques, is exemplified by Project Impact. Does everybody know what Project Impact is? Maybe not. Walmart conducted a big research project on how to improve their stores using conventional market research techniques, and they determined that people thought the stores were too cluttered, so they launched a big effort to declutter the stores, make them more Target-like. And what the real impact of Project Impact was a nearly $2 billion drop in same-store sales. They went back a couple years later and surveyed their customers and found out that they wanted more products. So in this case, they were not well served by traditional market research techniques. And the message there is, if what you're doing is asking your customers questions, then you're doomed to fail. There are big issues with memory. For one, it can be changed. People can have false memories implanted by other suggestions. It's too malleable. People lie when in response to questions. If it's something embarrassing to them, something they don't think that they need to disclose, they'll just flat out not tell you the truth. And as somebody else pointed out this morning, you certainly can't get information about visionary products. You can't ask people what they would think about an iPod if they've never seen an iPod before. Focus groups have their own issues. They obviously have many purposes, but have some issues with social bias and potential problems with the leader bias and so on. And some of the most difficult questions to ask are why questions, like why did you buy that? Well, I bought that beer because it tasted better, that perfume because I liked the way it smelled. In reality, of course, those aren't the real answers. But that's how people will respond to conventional research. This is the obligatory iceberg slide. You may think you've arrived at a global warming conference here with all these icebergs. I think the one really odd thing about all this is that the metaphor guy, Lindsay, just had a number on his slide, so I can hook you up with some iceberg art if... And hence the need for neuromarketing. The neuromarketing is kind of a weird descendant of three fields of study. You've got psychology, neuroscience, and economics, and they kind of begat neuropsychology and neuroeconomics, and produced somehow this weird offspring, neuromarketing. And I just noticed the other day there's this really little technical journal that nobody ever heard of that actually combines those three parents, neuropsychoeconomics, but unfortunately it's not really one of the leading journals in the field. A lot of people find the idea of neuromarketing scary, and it doesn't matter what form it takes. Any mention of neuromarketing causes a reaction that people think that somehow Big Brother is watching them. For a long time, you could not find a mainstream article about neuromarketing without the word Orwellian appearing in it. Now that's a little bit less common, but it still certainly creeps up. Some people find it just very strange. This was from Deliver magazine, a very respected marketing publication, but for some reason they chose to illustrate their article a few years ago about neuromarketing with a guy wearing a colander on his head. They had about 8 images of him sprinkled throughout the article, all looking vaguely crazed and wearing the silly headgear. There are a few elements of bad news, though, for those folks who are really expecting a lot out of neuromarketing. There is no mind reading per se going on, at least not in the sense that people think about mind reading. There are no super ads. One of the big fears is that somehow this technology will turn people into buying drones. The perfect ad will be crafted. Not going to happen. There is no buy button in the brain, and any suggestion that somehow an ad can magically push it and cause people to buy, just not going to happen. Where neuromarketing techniques can help is looking at this chart. You can't really see it, but a big study of brand advertising showed that 20% of ad campaigns had no effect on brand market share. 20% saw an actual decline in brand share after the campaign. So that's 40% of advertising that is wasted. And that goes all the way back to a department store magnet Wanamaker, who famously said that half his advertising was wasted, he just didn't know which half. And you can see that in the last 100 years, things have not really changed much. Almost half of advertising is ineffective. And if neuromarketing techniques, whichever ones, can do anything to stem that waste, then that's a great contribution to companies, to consumers. So the idea is we want to get inside people's heads with these techniques, and there's a lot of discussion over what neuromarketing even is. I like a really broad definition. There are certainly some harder neuroscience techniques like EEG and fMRI, other types of scans. There's biometric measures that may or may not really be neuroscience, but different biometric readings you can take from people. You've got behavioral science coming in with behavior studies, eye tracking, facial coding. So there's all kinds of technologies that are lumped into it. But to me, rather than trying to argue about what is and what isn't, I think that if we're using our understanding of how the brain works to market better, then we can safely call that neuromarketing.